This is a taste of life path. And if you know for a fact that you want to join, you know, sight unseen, then you can go to personalityhacker.com /vision and get all the deets. But before we do that, we want to make sure that regardless of whether or not you're here to get that taste, that you leave with something valuable, as Joel mentioned. Before we launch into it, though, I just want to make sure that everybody is kind of up to speed. Is everybody familiar with the CAR model that we teach at Personality Hacker and the cognitive functions that fit in your CAR model? If you're not, if you would maybe raise your hand to go, I have no idea about any of this. I'm brand spanking new. I'm trying to figure it all out. And I'm at the very beginning of my journey. If anybody's in that position, by the way, I know that that's like, yeah, me, I don't know anything. I don't want to call anybody out, but I do want to take a moment to just make sure you're orientated to, basically the premise of what we'll be talking about.
Do you need to visually see people's hands or do you want to do digitally?
I was going to do it digitally. Okay.
So yeah. I think probably a better thing to go is maybe just kind of get a slice of this. Who is just starting out on their personality journey and the caramel, and you're like, I'm kind of a beginner. I need a little bit of like more detail. I'm just kind of piecing it all together right now. Just maybe a show of hands real quick. Okay, great. Go ahead and lower those. And then who's like, I know my CAR model. I know the functions. I know where I am, but like things like all 8 functions or shadow functions or more of the advanced stuff, I'm still learning that. I'm pretty good at my personality, but some of the extra, let me just get a show of hands. All right, great.
Okay, fantastic.
And then go ahead and lower those. And then you're an expert. Like you want to like join our team and start teaching this tomorrow.
That's right. You're like, why am I even here? I should be teaching all of you. Yeah.
Like I just feel like I know it all. I've read every single book that could possibly be, and I feel like, which maybe I framed it too much, but you feel pretty confident. Like you really are on a path of like, maybe you're trying to connect this in like a professional way or something. Maybe I framed it in like a too advanced thing. It's not like a black belt. It's just like, you know what you're talking about, and you understand it, and you really use it a lot.
All right, Melissa.
Great. Okay, good.
Melissa's part of one of my advanced courses, so she's like, I know.
Okay, great. Thanks, everybody. You can lower your hands, just getting a sense of where people are coming from. Yeah. You might want to take a screenshot of this slide in case you're maybe like newer to find your cognitive functions.
Yes.
And just knowing your CAR model will be really powerful for this experience this weekend.
No, you're not necessarily going to need to know every position, but this is an overview. So I guess what we're doing is really orientating to see the familiarity people have with the concept of cognitive functions. So since there are some people who are a little new and are at the beginning of their journey, I want to take a moment to indicate that type, your best fit, your Myers-Briggs best fit type is actually a decoder ring for your mental wiring. That was originally built on the work of Carl Jung, and Carl Jung noticed a pattern of 8 different, basically, well, he called them cognitive functions or mental processes that everybody is using all the time. But we come pre-wired to be hyper-focused on a small set of them. And the CAR model talks about 4 different cognitive functions that you are pre-wired to be the most interested in. So if you notice on the right-hand side, there's a cheat sheet that talks about what those cognitive functions might be for your personality type. So as Joel mentioned, you might want to take a screenshot because we'll be talking about each one of these functions in a little bit more depth, not in deep dive, but a little bit more depth. All right. So if you need a screenshot,
now's your chance.
Now's your chance. 3,
quickly write them down. We're going to move on.
2, 1. All right. So hopefully you got that screenshot. And if you didn't, I'm not sure what to do about that at this point, but we'll figure it out. Okay. So the underlying premise of the Life Path program came about when we were doing some coaching with Dr. John Beebe. Now, if you've been in this world a little bit, you know, Dr. John Beebe came up with something that he called the 8 function model, which understands our personality type, not just in terms of those first 4 functions, but all 8 functions. And as we were talking to him, something became really clear to me. And that is the reason why there's 8 cognitive functions isn't because it's randomly or arbitrarily chosen, but they actually are representations for 8 different aspects of life that all of us have to engage and interact with. We all have to have a sensing part of us. We all have to have an intuitive part. We all have to have a thinking part, and we all have to have a feeling part of who we are. And so what type really is a diagnostic of which aspect of life that you come pre-wired being hyper-focused on. I mean, that's what personality type really is. It's not just telling you your strengths and your weaknesses. It's telling you which parts of life capture you and fascinate you and make you feel like this is linked to purpose. That when you're in this aspect of life, everything is just working on, like, it's like you're on rails, and you just have a natural knack for honing in on and understanding this area of life. It also tells us the areas of life that we are not pre-wired to be focused upon. All right. That's for somebody else, right? Other people with other personality types, they focus on that area of life. This is my area of life. And if we see our personality types as being a diagnostic on which aspects of life we're pre-wired to focus on, it gives us a sense of stewardship. All right. This area of life, because I'm pre-wired to be fascinated by it, I'm pre-wired to be focused on it, I understand all the problems in it, I continually think about problem solving in this area of life. In some ways, you are pre-wired to be the most qualified person as almost like an ambassador for that aspect of life. And the more you hone yourself, the better you get at this area of life, the more helpful you are to others, the more of a steward you are to make sure that other people don't forget its importance and that they can solve problems within that aspect of life. So what would that really look like? Well, let's take the perceiving functions first. These are the sensing and the intuitive functions.
So this is how we learn information and we perceive our world. These are the functions that we use. These are the energies and the functions that show up here.
And each one of these functions is hyper-focused on and tuned in or tapped into an energy that's represented in this area of life. So extroverted sensing, or what we call sensation, this is focused on the aspects of life that understand the importance of experience right here, right now. Okay. Not all of us are tuned into the present, right? We get a talking to all the time on magazines and grocery stores about how we need to be more mindful and present, right? We're always being like told about presence and the importance of it because most of us are not tapped into the present. We're somewhere else. We're working at a problem in our head. We're thinking about something that happened in the past, or we're worried about something that's happening in the future, when really right here, right now is the only thing we have. All right. That's the only thing we actually experience. And so people who have extroverted sensing or sensation as a strength of theirs, particularly the first two functions, the driver and the co-pilot, they are representatives to remind us how important the moment is, right? How important experience is. They're also people who remind us how important a feeling of aliveness is, right? It's really easy for us to kind of go, oh, I don't know why I feel so mundane and life is just kind of blah, and I don't even know why I'm here anymore, and what is the purpose of life, right? These are people who go, okay, well, if I'm not feeling alive, what will make me feel alive? How do I tap into that energy? And they're also people who remind us that opportunities are everywhere because they're being vigilant for it, right? They're watching for opportunities at any given moment. So there's a slice of life that is about the present moment, feeling alive in the present moment, experiencing it fully, and seeing all the opportunities in front of us. There's another slice of life that's represented by introverted sensing or memory. This is about the experiences that we have already had in the past, all right? Things that have already been experienced. Doesn't have to be our experiences, right? We can borrow experiences from other people. And when we do that, we gain a special wisdom. We get a special tapping into the importance of where we've come from. So this slice of life is about heritage. Who am I based on all the things I've experienced in the past? Who are we collectively as people based on all the places we've come from? It's also about the importance of rhythms, right? Seasons, the fact that things keep repeating themselves over and over in these cycles that can be counted on, that we can rely upon, the things that never change, no matter what. It's also tapped into the importance of security, all right? Opportunities might keep us alive, but that doesn't mean that we have a sense of homeostasis. And this is a function that goes, it's really important to remember the lessons of the past to ensure that we're going to be okay. And then when we do that, we get peace of mind as a gift. All right, we get a sense of serenity as a gift. So there are people, SJs in particular, who are tapped into the importance of where we've come from and really understanding the meaning of heritage. All right, and then there's the intuitive functions. There's a slice of life that's represented in extroverted intuition or exploration. This is a slice of life that's more tapped into the idea of possibilities. All right, where could we go? Questions like, where could we go if we didn't have to start from here? Which is a nonsensical question, but that's what extroverted intuition is tapped into. Like, why do we have to just do things the way we've always done them? What if we did something completely different? And this gives us a sense of optimism, right? If we change everything, Well, it could be better, right? So let's be optimistic about the future. There's also a place of innovation that gets tapped into this energy, which is, well, if we could do it different, if there's a bunch of possibilities, well, what are those possibilities and how can we create them, right? What would we have to do? What kind of brainstorming would we have to do? What kind of idea generation would we have to do? And how can we disrupt what's there? All right. It's also the energy of disruption, which might sound really scary to some people, but disruption is necessary. That makes sure that we're not in ruts. So there's a whole slice of life that's all focused on what if things were totally different? And how could that improve life? How could that keep us optimistic and hopeful? And then there's introverted intuition, which is a slice of life. We call it perspectives, which is more about meaning. It's seeing what isn't there. It's experiencing a moment, but looking for all the pieces of information that surround the moment and can't be directly engaged with. And because it's always looking for what's not really happening, but is happening, it's looking for the meaning of the experience. It's also trying to figure out where is the probability of the future, as opposed to the possibilities of the future. It's more like, actually, if we were to continue on in this single stream, what is most likely to happen? It understands the importance of reframing, seeing things from a slightly different angle, right? Like, well, that's been our narrative, but if we reframe it, what could our narrative be, right? What are we missing here? How could we shift perspective and understand it in a different way? And it's tapped into ingenuity, which is not just thinking of innovative new ideas, but how would we roll those ideas out, right? What would I actually have to do to make that a possibility? And each of these is an important aspect of life that we come pre-wired with understanding the importance of that slice of life. But we might struggle in the other areas. And the reason why this is important when we talk about goal setting and what you're trying to do for 2023 and where you're headed is your goals probably live in one of the slices of life that is not your natural strength, right? It might feel a little inaccessible. In fact, it might feel hard because you're not pre-wired necessarily to tap into that energy. That's an important thing to know. Are you fighting against your own tendencies? Is this something that feels like an uphill battle, right? Is this something that's in a slice of life that isn't natural to you? Moving on to the thinking and the feeling functions. And these are technically called judging functions. These are the should statements of life. That's how we determine if something's important, not just taking in information, but deciding what to do with that information.
By the way, from the first chart, just kind of identify on those perceiving functions, the energies, which ones maybe strength or weaknesses, just kind of get a sense of which ones you're more tapped into than others. Just start to maybe on your paper, just kind of form a little bit of a map for yourself of, maybe however you would rate it. We're going to have a formal way we're going to do this in a moment, but just start to get a sense of how much you're tuned into one of these energies or multiple of these energies and which ones are struggle for you.
That's right. So there's a slice of life that extroverted thinking or effectiveness, that cognitive function is particularly tapped into. That is, well, in one word, you can almost call it progress. All right. It's about setting up life systems outside of yourself, putting everything in place in order to get things accomplished. It's about goal setting, making progress, resource management to make those goals happen, right? And when I say progress, I mean like creating beachheads, all right? So if I make 5% progress and then I create a beachhead and I've established it, so I don't have to go backward. I can continue to make progress over time. And I can do that by meting out my resources to make that happen. And I can create systems around myself to make that happen. Then there's the energy of introverted thinking or accuracy. This takes thought and brings it inside, right? It's about thought systems. It's not life systems out here, but thought systems in here and understanding different models. It doesn't focus so much on goals as it does on processes to get to those goals, right? The goal doesn't really matter as much as the process matters and how we refine all those processes. And it's not as focused necessarily on progress. And so it's willing to do work again if the process is wrong, right? So it's willing to reevaluate. It's more about focus, all right? How do we make our processes as good as possible? And that means that we might have to go back and recover territory in order to truly solve those problems. And so this is more about the fidelity of the how we're getting there or the process of getting there than it is focusing on what was accomplished. And of course, because it's about thought systems, our beliefs come in here. Our thinking comes in here. Do I have limiting beliefs? Do I have beliefs about myself that I'm having a hard time getting rid of? Then it might be the energy of this function that is the challenge. Extroverted feeling or harmony. And by the way, extroverted thinking effectiveness is for the TJ types. Introverted thinking or accuracy is for the TP types. and extroverted feeling or harmony, where I'm moving to, are for the FJ types. Now, this is a slice of life that is focused on relationships. It's focused on connection. That experience of knowing another person is in the room just because you can feel their energy is this extroverted feeling being tapped into human energies, right? Now, it gets translated oftentimes into emotion, because the easiest way for energy to translate into something that is that we can apply an understanding or a narrative to, the fastest, easiest way is emotional. But it can also be thought, but it's really about being tapped into the energy of other humans. And because it's so tapped into that, it understands the importance of connection and support, right? We get through this together. Let's all be on the same page together to support each other. So empathy is important, being able to tap into the emotional energy of another person and kind of know what's going on for them, even if they don't communicate it. And it's about morale, okay? Making sure that people's morale is up enough so that we can continue to support each other. And of course, the biggest thing that we do to tap into good morale is get needs met. And then there's introverted feeling or authenticity. This is for the FP types. And this is more focused on introspection. Who am I? What's motivating me, right? What are my intentions? What makes me up? What's important to me? What do I like and dislike? What do I feel conviction around? What am I going to do as my life purpose, right? How will I communicate to other people that this is important to me by having a crusade? What am I going to crusade for? What is something that really communicates to others and expresses to them what's important to me as an individual? All of these are crucial, important aspects of life, right? If we don't have all 8 of these represented in some fashion, well, you can see the lack. Joel and I were talking about how there's an Anna Karenina line that's quite famous. It's how the book Anna Karenina starts out, where he says that all happy families are the same, but all unhappy families are unhappy in their own way. And we were looking at family systems that feel like they're breaking down. And almost always you can see that there's one of these 8 functions that's just missing, right? And the lack of it is creating a lack of stability in the entire family. Like, take, for example, if a family is missing introverted thinking or accuracy, they might never really talk to each other about what they're really thinking. They might actually be a family of deception. They might be very supportive, but every time there's a problem, they might not hit it directly and just sweep it under the rug. And now those things calcify or become cancers. If you're missing, my family was missing introverted feeling or authenticity. And the lack of that meant that all of us were telling each other what we thought all the time, but nobody was kind. Nobody took the person's experience into consideration. So there was a harshness there. There was an inability to really understand what's going on for the individual, and more demanding identity be part of the family system as opposed to individuated. So sometimes you can see a person's challenge by what's the function vacuum in their life. What's the one function that is really just kind of missing, and they never get a lock on that. And they never really get into that part. And so the 8 slices of life are powerful because we're not hardwired to master all of them. In fact, we're hardwired to master very few. And we become a representative for how important that thing is. And then we lean on other people to represent the other elements, but that doesn't mean we can just ignore them. Like, all of us have to be able to be present to our lives. If we're not experiencing presence, we lack aliveness, right? We forget why we're doing anything because nothing really feels satisfying ever, right? And we kind of forget to live. We forget the importance of being in our lives. If we don't have a relationship to the past, we forget the importance of where we came from. We forget lessons that are crucial to learn. We forget to do a review of all of the challenges we've overcome and how much self-confidence lives in the review, right? If we don't have an idea of possibilities, right? If we don't have any possibility thinking or optimism about the future, we might get stuck in a situation and not know how to get out of it, right? Because we lack that thinking, we lack the innovation to be able to navigate to a better possible future. We just kind of go, oh, I guess I just have to live like this. If we lack introverted intuition or perspectives, then we lack the capacity to form meaning. We lack a capacity to have a vision for ourselves into the future. And we might create narratives and stories about our lives that we can never reframe, and then we get stuck in them. If we lack extroverted thinking or effectiveness, then we lack the capacity to make progress in our lives. We lack the ability to gain resource. We might always be stressed about money or time, or we don't really know why we're doing what we're doing. We're just doing it, and we're just getting caught in these hamster wheels. If we lack introverted thinking or accuracy, as mentioned, we might never really be honest with ourselves, or we might have these very disempowering thoughts inside of us that we can't seem to get out. We can't reevaluate the thought systems inside of ourselves, and then we talk ourselves out of living a full life. If we lack harmony, it means we lack connection. Everybody knows when they're lacking harmony, right? Like, we don't have any support in our lives. We have no capacity to give back. We have no real understanding of the importance of relationships. We don't really make sure that our morale is high and other people's morale is high. And then eventually just like, why is everybody hating life? Why is everybody just kind of feel blah, right? And that's where harmony is so crucial and important. And if we lack introverted feeling or authenticity, we lack purpose, right? We lack a relationship to self. We might have everything else on lock. Everything else is fine. But then we just kind of go, but who am I and why am I doing anything, right? So each area is crucial and necessary. We don't have to master each area. We don't have to be an ambassador for it. We don't have to steward that element of life, but we at least need to know what our relationship with that area of life is and what needs to be improved upon. If it's something that's really out of reach because it's something that's not part of our personality at all, what are the tools that we can gain in order to connect with that part of us? Who can we outsource it to? Like, how do we solve the problem of not being able to directly access this aspect of life? And how do we solve that anyway? How do we make sure that that part is at least thought about? We at least have intention towards it. And we get good tools to make up for those deficiencies, right? So that's the premise, that there are these 8 functions are representing these 8 aspects of life that all of us need to at least understand where we fit.
So we're preparing to launch our brand new Personality Life Path program. It's an 8-week online mentorship in self-leadership. So taking those 8 slices of reality or 8 slices of life, we're going to each week over the course of 8 weeks, take one of them. We're going to unpack what that energy looks like in the broader world, like what it looks like in its natural, energetic field, if you will. It sounds a little woo, but just how does this happen in life at all? And then we're going to talk about your relationship with this, particularly your personality type's relationship with this, and then the systems in your life that also have to touch this energy over these 8 weeks. Do you have something you want to add to that?
No, I was just going to say every week is a deep dive into the function. So we talk about why it's important, where it came from, how it evolved, all the aspects of it, all the different ways that it looks. And then, of course, your relationship to that function. And it doesn't matter if it's your first 4, it doesn't matter where it falls. All of us have a relationship to that element. And so it's really an audit. Every week is an audit of your relationship to that function and what areas of life you might be, that there's possibilities to make it better. What areas of life you need tools, you need to outsource, how to just get a handle on all of these.
Yeah, I want to take another minute here and just talk a little bit about it. Then we're going to close this down and we're going to go into, in hour 2 here as we're going in, we're going to talk about one of these. We're going to give you an actual taste of what it looks like to go deeper into the function to start setting some goals. And then in hour 3, I want to talk a little bit about reframing how you think about goals and setting goals for this year, and then talk about practical action steps that you can take from this session to maybe do tonight before you come back tomorrow, where we can unpack some things. So these 8 weeks in the Personality Life Path, that's the other thing, is we set these up with challenges and activities for you to do week to week to go test these in the real world. So we're talking about extroverted sensing, which we do in week number 1. We're going to talk all about the archetypal energy, how it relates to your personality type. And at the end of the session, we're going to talk about what activity or test can you go actually experience in the world to tap into this energy of extroverted sensing or sensation, and getting the feedback and learning from that of how it shows up in your life, and maybe the calibration opportunities you have to tweak some things, to make some adjustments in the system that is your life to get better results, the results you want. So we're going to do that each week as we go. And then we end the entire experience in a 3-day in-person event. The 8 weeks happen virtually on Zoom. We come together in person for 3 days. Now, if you live somewhere where you can't make it to the United States, that's okay. We're going to be doing those 3 days in Nashville, Tennessee. I think it's the weekend after Easter. It's like April 21st, 22nd, 23rd. Meet together in Nashville, Tennessee, here in the United States. We live stream that. It's very simple. It's just a Zoom setup. We live stream with a computer, like a computer on the side of the room, for people to be able to join us if you couldn't be there live. It's the only program we do live stream because we really want this to be accessible to as many people as possible. So you can join with Zoom all those 8 weeks. You could also join Zoom on those 3 days, but we really encourage you, if you can make it live and come in person, it's amazing how much learning comes from that, because like my dad said, in college, you learn more in the hallways between classes than the classes themselves. There's so much community, so many conversations that break out in between sessions and all of that during that weekend. So we really want you to have a part of that. Just to give a little bit more detail, these are the schedule, and this information is also on the information page. But we're going to start February 4th. So that's next Saturday, 1 week from today. We kick this program off with orientation. Everything's at 3 p.m. Eastern time. So the same time we started this, whatever time zone you're in, every week it starts the same time. We only do one Saturday, then everything else is on a Wednesday. And the reason we chose 3 o'clock Eastern time is because people in California or Hawaii could join. It's their morning, early morning for Hawaii, but regular morning for California, or actually it's noon in California. But all the way to Europe, the Europeans, it's in the evening, and then Australians, it's really early morning for you. So we tried to pick a time to give the globe as much access, and European, Australia, America, North America. So 3 o'clock Eastern time, you can just kind of see a little bit of the schedule here. And then Nashville, Tennessee is happening Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, the 21st to 23rd, April 2023. And these sessions are roughly, they're 3 hours. Often we push a little bit beyond the 3-hour mark. Sometimes we're like in a deep discussion or something like that. And we try to give a lot of content there. So what actually will happen is that you'll go through some digital content in the start of your week. You'll watch a session about, let's say, introverted feeling in week 6. You'd watch a session all about introverted feeling. There's some things to think about and activities and all that. And then we get on a live call on Wednesday and hit the ground running. You've already accessed the material, and we start to actually workshop at how you're going to connect this into your actual life. And then we give you some exercise activities. You go and do those. In the beginning of week 7, for example, the extroverted intuition or exploration week, we'll start off talking about all the learnings you got in the first hour from the introverted feeling week. And then we open up the energies of extroverted intuition, and we go through the whole cycle again, give you activities, exercises to go test that week and come back. And we've stacked these in a very particular order. This is with intention. We start week 1 with extroverted sensing, the foundation of the present moment, your senses, your body, your physicality, all of that. And we work our way through all of it up to the end, which is introverted intuition, perspectives about the meaning making, the vision for your life, where you're heading, all of these. So we start at the basics and we work up with intention. And then in the live event, we spend 3 days together really connecting this in the most visceral, real, tangible, actionable way at that event. So I just want to give that quickly to talk about that. And now we'll go into our exercises that you can do over the night tonight and bring back with you tomorrow for tomorrow's session.
Okay.